welcome everyone to Live with Tracy and Rob. Tracy Whitmore and Rob Sutherland here to chat about recruiting and retention. Don't forget about that piece. So Rob, I meant to go grab my pumpkin spice latte because it's my favorite season. How about you? Have you got something there?
I've actually got a little something like that here. It's pretty tasty.
So what season are we talking about?
I think we're talking about recruiting season. I think that's probably the hot topic for today. Yeah. It's easy to notice, right? When it's September, it's like everybody like gets that back to school mentality, and I love that, even though it's October now.
It's October. It's almost October. It's still not quite cool enough for me to put on the scarf and the boots in Atlanta, but it is my favorite time of year. Not just because I love fall, but I sure love recruiting season too.
I love recruiting season, but I also love the fall fashion. What can I say? I mean, it's jackets and pants and stuff. I mean, I don't know. Up here, when it's summertime in Canada, we tend to take advantage of it, and the shorts and flip-flops may last a little longer than some other places, but it's just, we're just happy to have the sunshine. So it's great. But recruiting season, let me tell you, it's an important time, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys see some of that on your end.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that we noticed in our some of the reporting and things that we look at is Q1 of every year, we see very high agent movement as compared to some of the other quarters of the year. And as I think everyone here, if you do recruiting, you know that recruiting is a little bit longer of a cycle than just, hey, I call you once and we're good to go. There normally takes a little bit of nurturing, multiple calls. You know this, Rob.
For sure.
So that's why we call Q4 recruiting season, because this is the time to really make sure you're networking, reaching out, looking for those contacts that you can have those conversations with, because while they may not be ready to make the switch now, the likelihood that they'll be thinking about it over the next couple months is going to be a little bit higher.
It's true. And we see it a lot every year where we'll have clients that say, hey, let's just pause the calls for August or July and August, and we'll start picking up in September, October, and November, because they know that is a time when people start looking at their business. I started recruiting in 2008, and I learned very quickly that was one of the times of the year where people were really susceptible to looking at their business. So if you can get in front of them with a business plan or some new ideas or just a fresh brand or just some kind words, I tell you, it goes a long way this time of year, because they're thinking of January. They're thinking, but they got to make that switch before January because the license transfer and the branding has to change and all that kind of stuff. So they want to have a clean start to January 1st a lot of the time. So right now, I would say things to be putting in your projects to do like quickly would be like a new video, something where it's like, hey, I realize that it's the end of the year and you may be looking at your business, that type of thing, something to send out to your prospects that way. Push extra hard on email campaigns right now if you're sending them out. It's a great time to get people to be clicking and reading your things. So if you can send out some stuff that's strategic, that's about your office or just items of value, you're going to start getting more people interested in the business right now, as opposed to, obviously the summer months. But again, reaching out by phone, whether you hire someone to do it or to do it yourself, is something to set aside an hour a day right now and to really take advantage of it, because September's over, right? I mean, obviously we've got a couple days left here, but it's October 1st on Friday. And October, November, December, super, super hot months. It kind of like, September seems to be that month where everyone's kind of figuring out what they're going to do and getting the ball rolling. And after Labor Day, it takes a little while to get people going. But once we get into October and November and December, right up until the 20th, we usually see a lot of movement. Do you guys kind of see the similar statistics over there?
Yeah, I think the movement generally happens the first of the year, but that's what people are thinking about now. They're preparing, they're thinking about where they're going to go, if they're going to make that change. They're looking at their business. How did I do this year compared to last year? What tools am I being provided by my brokerage? Some of those things. So I thought, let's talk about a few ideas that, you had mentioned these reach outs, doing videos, having, emails, text messages, whatever the method is. Let's talk about some of the specifics of who people can reach out to. And one of them to me that's top of mind is the co-ops. Who are agents that are closing deals with your office? Take a look at who's been closing the most deals with your office. Maybe send them a little gift to their office. Maybe send them something to their home if you've got that. But it always looks nice, and it's a great opportunity for you to reach out and say, hey, you closed 5 deals with us this year. What would that look like if you were on our side? There are just different ways
Absolutely.
to work that messaging, but co-op is kind of that low-hanging fruit. Even if it's just, hey, we want to tell you we appreciate you working with us throughout the year. I think that's just a nice, kind message that people appreciate.
People love that stuff, and it's a personalized experience. It's a personalized touch, which is what recruiting is. It's not like you're offering someone a job. I say that on the phone 10 times a day when I'm talking to people, that recruiting is sales. You're selling your brokerage to a potential consumer who is an agent. He's going to come and pay fees there, and deal fees and monthly fees and desk fees and all, copies and whatever. It's going to, cost him money to move and that type of thing. And so having that kind of personalized experience, I think, is very important. Even when I used to recruit for Remax full time back in 2008, one of the things that I always tried to do was tee it up for the broker owner, right? Like, if you've got a recruiter working for you, that's great, but getting the broker owner, or even the manager, but again, person who's got a vested interest in the company, to do some outreach, to actually follow up with some leads and things like that. We've got great clients that spend a lot of time following up on leads, sending touches, sending personalized little one-off videos and things like that, because they know the more that they can show the value in what they're doing and not just make it about cost or money or things like that, and about the vibe and the presence of the office, the more likely they're going to jive with someone that's going to be a good fit. Because you might be able to recruit somebody, but you might get them in the door and they might be not somebody that you like. Whereas if you spend some more time cultivating the lead and sending them things that they respond to, that's a great thing. And I think coming into fall, maybe have some fun, maybe send out some Halloween themed things or some pumpkin spice latte themed things, but have a look at it more like marketing than just recruiting. And I think you'll find it's a lot more fun. And especially if you start using data, right? Like, that's the thing. We're talking about doing co-brokered calls and things like that. But if you were going to start looking at, okay, year over year, an agent last fall who was super hot coming out of the summer, who isn't hot right now, would be a great person to get in touch with, right? Because maybe they're not feeling the love of their office. Maybe they were getting leads from their office that they're not getting anymore. But either way, there's some sort of a pain point there that you could explore. And I think that that's one of the things in using a data subscription or using it to recruit, is to actually, pinpoint the type of people you want to talk to, so that you're not wasting any time.
Oh, definitely. I think one of the things that, and I absolutely agree, year over year, are they doing worse? Hey, we've got coaching opportunities. We have ways to make your business better. But on the flip side, don't forget about the ones that are doing better, because you can send a congratulations. You can tell them, hey,
Totally.
I just noticed that you're doing really well, and I wanted to reach out and let you know that I am noticing you. And maybe you're not going to be, maybe they're happy where they are at the moment, but if you're kind of in that second position, you never know when they're going to get upset or have a bad day or decide, you know what, I'm done. You want to be in that second position, so that, hey, I'm going to call this broker that's been noticing how well I've been doing. That could put you in a really good position when they do have that day that they decide they're ready to move on. So I think that's another good thing. And I know a lot of brokers, they try to steer clear of the ones that are up in production, because it's not as easy as a recruiting call. But, just checking in and saying, hey, what are you doing? What are you seeing? Tell me, what's the secret to success? You never know what a conversation what impact that can have on their mindset there.
For sure. And I mean, you're catching people going up and coming down, right? If you're talking to someone that's on the way up, last year they did 10 deals by now, this year they've done 20. Hey, that's a huge congratulatory call. Hey, what have you done to your business? How have you improved this? This is a call where you're asking questions, because the more that you can ask people questions, the more that they're going to feel comfortable with you, especially in a recruiting scenario. So if you're calling someone that's on the way up, ask them how they did it. How are they improved their business year over year, that type of thing. What kind of tools and things are they using that's helping them grow their business, which I think is a nice, comfortable conversation to have with someone. Someone who's on trending down, maybe not as comfortable a conversation, but that's where you can actually ask them, what are the issues? What are you having trouble with? Is it time management? Is it the systems in place at your office? Are you not getting any support? Are you too busy? Do you need someone to help you with how many leads you've got coming in? Are you working too much with buyers? Would you rather work with sellers? That type of thing. And really focus and hone in on their business so that they feel that love. Because at the end of the day, I think that residential real estate is a hugely emotional business, unlike commercial real estate, and so if you can really, develop friendships with the agents that you're trying to recruit, or good relationships, they're going to turn into lasting relationships that you can retain. And I think that that's also another thing you've got to really start thinking about this fall, is retaining your agents, because just as much as we're talking about recruiting and helping you recruit, there are people who are thinking about that with maybe the agents at your office, right? And so you've got to start thinking about how to retain them. And I think Tracy and I were talking earlier about, maybe you can speak about that, Tracy, about using some data to have a look at your own agents and to see their production, to follow up with them for retaining.
Yeah, definitely. So to me, the biggest one is year-over-year production. Are they doing better this year than they did previous year? Are they doing a little bit worse? Just trying to identify any of those red flags. If they're not doing as well this year compared to last year, reach out, remind them of some, and even the ones that are doing better, you always want to remind them of the value proposition. What are the things that they receive? Because, I know there's a lot of brokerages that offer a lot of different tools and services that all the agents in the office might not take advantage of. They forget about, they're busy. As things slow down naturally with the market during the time of year, during, fall, late fall and winter, that's a perfect opportunity to, hey, don't forget, we've got these tools in place. Take some time to learn how to use them. Hey, I thought about you today. I'm not sure if you're using this product. Here's a quick video on how to get started. Those are some of the things that you want to make sure you're spending time reminding them of, the value that you bring with your brokerage and your company. And then, agents
sure.
that are doing better, make sure you're celebrating that success. And, hey, what are you using? What are your secrets? I think that's another good one to ask internally. How are people
For sure.
Getting to those levels of production? I think that's so important to make sure you're staying connected with your own agents, because you don't want to do all this work trying to recruit people in, because it's way easier to keep people that are currently with you as opposed to recruiting a new person in. So
True.
Definitely lots of great opportunities for conversation there.
Got to bring a round of pumpkin spice lattes into the office and make sure that everyone's got something.
I always love when I go to Starbucks, you see the little gift card that says "Thanks a latte." I think it's so clever. But I'm a cheese ball. It is cute. So.
That's all right. I used to know a guy that would drop off a Kudos chocolate bar to people to try and recruit them. And kudos to you. And his business card would be taped on the back.
How about the payday? Looking for a payday.
Oh, I used to know a guy that would go to, he was a Remax broker. He would go and he would have the extra gum packs with his business card taped to it or stuck to it. And it was, I'll go the extra mile for your referrals.
Oh, nice.
And I thought, yeah, there's a lot of dad jokes, I think, that end up coming out of that. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, you got to have some fun with it. Tracy and I have a lot of fun with these podcasts, but at the end of the day, recruiting takes effort. It's just like sales. It's like marketing. It's the same kind of thing. You're not just posting an ad online and collecting leads. The first real estate office was not built because it was there and some people just decided to show up and all of a sudden the guy had 100 agents. He had to put the word out. He had to talk to people, and so when you're looking into the fall, obviously there are things that we want to get covered. And I think that if you're covering off things like maybe shooting a new video, like I was just talking to a guy yesterday and they're super excited because they got 10 or 12 of their agents to do actual video testimonials for their office, which is fantastic. Because if you can go and shoot a couple of those, or even just get one right now where you've got an agent who loves working where you are, and can you go right ahead and just film a little something for me and I'll buy you lunch, and then you can send it out, right? Like, that is a fantastic thing to send around, because if you've got someone that you're retaining also preaching the good word about why someone should join your office, that's content that's irreplaceable, that you can keep forever, right? As long as that agent's with you, you've got a good video. And some people that we know, they don't want to get in front of a camera. I totally understand that. But, casually in an office, if you can shoot something that's kind of half decent quality with a cell phone, the cameras are so good on phones these days, you've got something to send out that shows that you're retaining an agent, but also, hey, you're looking to grow. And I think that type of stuff was not available 5 or 10 years ago so easily, right? It was way more expensive to film, and you can't just put a camera in front of anybody's face like you can now. And I think that stuff, the little projects we were talking about before, where it's like, shoot a video, have a look at what your outreach is like. If you're just doing one email campaign a month that doesn't have a video in it, talk about changing that up. If you've got a list of prospects that you're calling and you're not getting any traction, let's talk about how to make that better. Because a lot of the time, well, I'll talk to a client on the phone. I'm like, yeah, you sound great, but you don't sound anything like one of our recruiters. You know what I mean? Like, you're on the phone all day dealing with, business, and you're tired, and it's a full on thing. And so to have that pep and get on the phone and do sales calls, recruiting calls, is not necessarily something that they have time for, or the energy. So maybe that's where you have to look at outsource. And especially if you're looking at data, we just had a client who started with us, who has no list and doesn't know where they're going to recruit, and we're just figuring it all out for them, putting the pieces together by getting them signed up with Teradata, and making sure they've got actual production data, so we can get in there and target the right agents. Because we've got lists from people where there's 25 people in the first part of the list that they're not even in the business anymore. And it's like, well, that's not a recruiting plan. That's what we're trying to get everybody to think about this fall, is developing a recruiting plan. Lay it out. Let's draft it up. Let's see what the pieces that need to the puzzle need to be put together. Let's figure out where the mistakes are and correct them. Because at the end of the day, if you're not growing, you're shrinking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think traditionally with a lot of big businesses, September, October is when they're doing budgets. There's a lot of corporate planning, and I think agents kind of follow that model, because it comes into, okay, now I'm going to start planning my business for next year. Maybe not everybody's quite so organized about it, but this is a really good time to start thinking about what worked this year, what didn't work this year. If you've been watching us since January, we say a lot of the same things over and over, because it's so important to keep these strategies steady throughout the year. But if you're just now getting started, or you just now are feeling motivated for recruiting, the planning piece is really important, because I think that, especially if you're wearing a lot of hats in your brokerage, a lot of brokers, their only job isn't recruiting. They are also, managing the office, managing the agents. There's all kinds.
Or they're selling.
Or even selling.
Yeah. Or they're still selling. Yeah.
When you're spending, if let's say all you can really contribute is an hour a day to recruiting, well, you want to be very strategic with that hour. You don't want to start off with a list of 20 people that are no longer in real estate. You want to use the agents that are producing in your market, or agents that have closed a deal with your office, or agents that you've got a specific strategy, so that you've got a good list. And that's where, Broker Metrics, I'll do a shameless plug.
Oh, it's not shameless. It's our podcast.
But using Broker Metrics to really identify those prospects. I want, maybe your office is one where agents that close between, 10 and 15 deals, maybe that's your sweet spot. If you're making more money off of agents that produce with that volume versus the mega high producing agents, then let's really focus in on those agents that produce within that given range. Because if you've only got an hour a day, you want to get straight to it. You don't want to have to think every time, what am I doing? How am I going to, you don't want to start fresh. Basically, I'm getting at. You want to have that list ready to go. And then what's the reason that you're reaching out? Are they co-op? Are they up? Are they down? Are they, do they produce in your market? If I just opened an office in a new area, hey, I see that you hold market share here. We would love to include you in our new office. Whatever that message is, having something that specific, I think, will get you better results than starting with, some random list and not really knowing where it came from, how fresh it is, and if there's contact information attached.
Blindly just calling or sending it, it's not the greatest way to do things. And I obviously agree with that. And the co-brokers place is a great way to start. Calling people and congratulating them, that type of thing. Calling and asking questions, and not just market. Are there any tools that you're using that you really love? What do you love that you're using lately in the last year? Things that have changed your business, that type of thing. And targeting people, like, obviously we have hundreds of clients across North America. And I talk to them every day, and new clients every day. And it's kind of, there's a sweet spot that a lot of people want to target, which is people that are doing kind of 5 to 15 deals a year. And I think if you're looking at someone who's doing that kind of production, it's easier to try and double someone like that if your goal is to help them produce more, than to try and double someone who's doing 25 to 30 or 40 deals a year. Because if you're making 2 deals a month, you're doing very well usually. Like, that's usually pretty good money. And so I would say, you're dead on with that, with looking at that coming into next year and coming into, into the fall, figure out what that target list is going to look like, and who those people are going to be like, and then what your offering is going to be. If you need to talk to somebody and figure out how to make that happen better, I'm always available as well. Rob at the Pro Broker, or theprobroker.com. Basically, we're here as a resource. But the reason that Tracy and I have these podcasts is we just see people that, that kind of just leave it. We see people just leave the recruiting and they never come around to it, and they wonder why they're not growing. And all of a sudden they lost 5 agents, and then they're in a desperate, place where they haven't done any recruiting for 2 years. They've just lost half a dozen agents of the 20 agents they have, and they're going to try and make up ground when they could have just had a recruiting system in place the whole time. It's very inexpensive. And the thing is probably the most important part of your business. If you look at companies like the big companies like Amazon, they're selling their videos on the tape on the packages for Amazon Prime now, because they got to push their content, right? There's got to be a way for them to get it in everybody's face, right? And so one of the things I noticed about that, I was like, wow, Cinderella is on my package. I was like, this is a hard push for me to watch their TV channel, right? But what a unique way to do it. Like, it's actually very smart. And so that's one of the things that I like to uncover when we're talking to people about the recruiting campaigns is, what can we do that works for you? What's the smartest way for us to do the outreach? And usually it's calls, and usually it's that type of thing. But, obviously having the right list is important, but having the right speech and the right proposition when you're making those calls. We usually come up with 3 or 4 different scripts, because, if you're calling a co-broker, that's a different kind of a call. If you're congratulating call, that's a different kind of call. If you're calling somebody who's on the way down, that's a different kind of call. If it's just a straight up, recruiting call, that's different, and so, it's something that you can't glaze over. It takes a lot of care and attention, recruiting and building a business. I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a staff of 25, and so it'll probably be 50 by the end of next year. But the thing is like, every day we're looking at how we can systemize that and make it better, much like a real estate office, and I think that there are just so many products and services out there for real estate brokers to take advantage of. Sometimes you just need to hone in on a couple of really good ones to make things happen.
Yeah, and I would say if you're new to it, make sure that you're tracking what you're doing, because if you spend all your time reaching out to co-ops, but you're not really seeing results, well, then you may want to shift that into, okay, let's look for producing agents within this category. And maybe it's, Rob, you had mentioned the 5 to 15. Maybe you look at the 5 to 10. Do you have more luck recruiting those agents as opposed to the 11 to 15 range? What is really working for your office? And even looking at your own stats, what is your office mostly made up of? Because I know brokers have some idea of who they want in their office, but who's already there? Are you, are you supporting agents that are maybe doing the 10 to 15 deals and you want them to be producing more? Well, maybe you're looking, in the right range, maybe you need to make those adjustments. But if you're tracking those calls and you're watching to see who am I having the best luck with recruiting, then you can use that to create your strategy for the next year. And that's something that I think is so important. And it keeps you focused. And, we all like to see results. And so if something doesn't work,
for sure,
shift your strategy and make it something a little bit different.
For sure. And that's one of the things we noticed just in our own internal reporting. Just really quick, I know we're probably running long here. We'll get into some questions if people have it. But one of the things we found, we used to send a weekly report for recruiting, and that ended up being useless because then people would ghost that report every week and not do their appointments. And so we actually hold people to their appointments by sending them a report every day. Hey, it's on Thursday at 2:00. We booked it in your calendar. This is your system. This is how we're going to do this. And you don't have to manage any of that. Sometimes that's what you have to look at, is hiring it out. I hire out all kinds of things for our company, and it's benefited us, and it benefits our company continuously. But I see that for real estate brokerages too. They hire out their accounting, they hire out their front staff, they hire out their reception, that type of thing, right? So why not hire out the recruiting? Because if they don't have time for it and they're not doing it, they've got to have, something to do. I would love to take some questions if there is any. Other than that, I
posted in the chat. If anybody has any questions, post them in our chat or our Q&A. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we're on here, Tracy and I love recruiting. I used to be a professional recruiter, like I said before, and I've had this company for 10 years now. And Tracy's been with Teradata for a long time, and they've got a great product and great service over there and great support. And so we just, there's so few people in the lexicon of real estate recruiting. I just love developing partnerships with people, and so Tracy's been super great, and the people at Teradata. But they also have partnerships with a CRM, the On Task Recruiter CRM, and some other things that can help you, monitor the daily activities, right? Because at the end of the day, there should be some sort of daily activities for recruiting. There's some calls going out, there's some emails going out, you're following up with people you've met with, that type of thing. It's just like starting a sales cycle and developing a funnel. You've got to start throwing things at the top of the funnel, and then they're going to roll out the bottom of the funnel onto your calendar and as an appointment, with someone who wants to be recruited. And I think that that's why we'll continue to do these podcasts, and we love doing them. And if nobody has any questions, I mean, obviously I can talk forever about recruiting, but could I get more information? We've got Lindsay with a question there. Absolutely, Lindsay. We can give you more information about that. What's the question there? I didn't see it.
Details of the recruiting services. So a couple of things. I know, Rob, I'll let you speak to yours. We do also, if you subscribe to Broker Metrics, we have the Build a Better Business workshop, which really helps with the strategy and planning piece. So if you're looking to identify the list, see where you stand in your market, identify your competitors, identify your own office stats, and then set up the sales funnel and really drill down into that list. That's what we do with that workshop. And then you could take that list and hand it over to Rob. Rob, take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Lindsay, thanks for the question. So, basically what we do at Pro Broker Agency is we have a staff of professional recruiters that only work in the real estate industry. We work in real estate and mortgages, and that's what we do. And so when you sign up with us, basically what we do is we dedicate our pro recruiters to do an hour of calls for you every day. Some people buy more than an hour of calls every day, and that's great. But, we usually start with 1 hour every day. Because at the end of the day, they're not being made. So our goal with doing an hour of calls every day is to get 2 or 3 appointments a week. Heck, some of our clients get an appointment every day off of our calls. And then basically what we want to do is develop a cycle for you there, where we're going to be, calling every day and then sending you appointments and that type of thing. And then once you start meeting with those people, then we start following up and developing those relationships further for you. We had somebody who signed up recently in a very small town who had a very small list, and basically he wanted 20 people from 15, and we did it in 2 months, which was perfect for him. I mean, it was a short-term contract for us, but either way, the results we wanted. So that pricing rolls out very easily, inexpensive. It's $800 a month for an hour a day, done by a professional recruiter, and that's managed by our general manager and a team lead to check your leads and everything like that, send a report every day, because we have a high level of accountability for our clients. Because at the end of the day, if, one month to month, and if we're not getting our clients appointments and they're not, being able to cover off the cost of having us do our calls for them, then I don't want them to pay us anymore. It has to work, right? It has to be a win-win for everybody. And with us, it's actually a win-win-win, because the client wins, our company wins, and the recruiter wins. Everybody that works for us loves their jobs. They get to, they're not in some call center where it's noisy and a bunch of keys clacking around. They work from private offices at home, and they're professionals. And so it gives it a different kind of vibe, because when we reach out and we do the calls, we sound like we're calling from your office. We've got a local number. We identify ourselves as a part of your team. And when we dedicate one of our recruiters to someone's account, that recruiter is dedicated to them in perpetuity for as long as they're with us, because the more that person can learn about your brokerage, the better the calls will go, and the more they'll sound like part of the team, and the more we'll get the results we want. And so that's the short speech about it. But obviously it's been many incarnations, because when we first started this company, it was mostly digital marketing, and people loved that. They wanted us to do newsletters and social media postings and everything like that. We did that for years, but I just started looking at the results, and they weren't enough for me. And so we started the calls and the call center, and that has completely blown up, and everybody loves it because they get to do their own number of calls. Is there a minimum number of calls per hour? It's usually 20 to 30 calls an hour. We don't use a robo dialer or anything like that, because we are focused on talking to somebody, and so usually that breaks down to, like I said, 20 to 30 calls in an hour, which is usually 2 to 3 appointments a week. What else you got for me, Lindsay? Tracy's product.
About the company conversion rates. Do you have that information? Or maybe I did post our contact information, so if you want to get some of those specifics,
yeah,
definitely reach out to Rob and he can fill you in on that.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send Lindsay an email and we can schedule something. Not everybody, I'm sure, has the same questions, but you know, that's the thing. So, you know, if we're doing an hour of calls for somebody a day, we should be getting, you know, 2 to 3 recruits a month. You know, that's where we're at. That's kind of the bare metrics of everything is if we're going to do, you know, recruiting calls for people for an hour a day, 1 to 3 recruits a month are kind of expected. And we can talk about that more, Lindsay. I'll shoot you an email after this and we can figure it out. But we're probably running long. Tracy, how's our time?
Right on time.
Getting about half an hour.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good. Good to go.
But yeah, if anybody else has anything, we're always happy to chat. We'll do another one of these next month and that type of thing. But you know, feel free to contact Tracy. Terradatum.com is the website. Brokermetrics is the product. We love it. Works great. You know, obviously, you know, that's part of the thing of making the calls effective with Lindsay answering that. You know, like I said, if we get one of our recruiters on it, we get a list of people who aren't in the business anymore. We're all broker managers or things like that, or it's everybody that's the son who works at the office. That list is no good, right? So when we use a product like Brokermetrics, it helps us drill the data down and just do a better job. And that's why we love working with them.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. So thank you all for joining us today. So happy that
Thank you.
we had some people in here to keep us company.
It's very nice. I hope everyone has a nice warm latte today. Mine's actually almond milk.
Thanks a latte for joining.
Awesome, guys.
All right.
Have a great week. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tracy. Have a great day.
Hey, Rob.